Yo, what's up fanbase, it's your boy Blaze Hollow coming at you with my 3K special. I'll be bringing you What If Deku Was an Espada. I hope you checked out the live stream, just check out all the cool new stuff that's going to be coming our way. But with all that said, let's start that intro and get into it.
See me through the fuck, bitch. Crazy, saying that she hate me. Obliterate the pussy, feral animal with rabies. Yo, bitch, fucking dirty. She got scabies. Wife the Tatiana that trapped you with some babies. Everyone thinking that they gon' save me. Depressive motherfucker, I don't wanna steal you.
It was a cold night underneath the canopy of Los Noches. How the wind was blowing extremely hard. Only thing that could be heard was the sound of a baby crying, and the tension between the people around the woman and child. Well, you truly did screw up, Grimjaw. Of all the stupid things you could have done, this is by far the dumbest. Grimjaw was annoyed with the man who was carrying around a large scythe blade in the shape of a crescent moon. That is your own opinion, Noratora. A man with grizzly hair is seeming to be the eldest in the room as he held himself with high authority. He's not the only one. You know that Lord Aisin is probably not going to like the fact that the number 3 seat in his army is now disposable and no longer able to be useful. Grimjaw seemed to get a little bit more enraged as his spiritual pressure started to leak out into the room. You got a lot of nerve talking about my wife that way, so unless you got a death wish bodygun, I would choose your next words wisely. Before anything else could be said in the room, they could start to hear the crying of the child wailing out again as the woman's voice could be heard shushing him kindly and gently as everybody seemed to smile at the girl that they knew as Nelliel. Nelliel just looked at all of them as she shook her head. I wish that all of you boys could be a little bit more civilized. It seems that even an infant has a little bit more manners than the rest of you. Grimjaw calmed himself down so he could no longer leak out spiritual pressure to harm his child. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make him cry. As he went over to the bedside and got on his knees, he reached out for his new son, only for him to grab onto his pinky. I promise you're going to be a strong king and show all these fools that you were never a mistake. As soon as he was given those kind words to his child, everyone in the room felt an intense spiritual pressure and a light tapping on the tile floor. As everyone in the room started to sweat drop like mad, but the child seemed to look oblivious to all of it. As they all looked over at the doorframe to see their all-powerful Lord Aisin, as he seems to be pleased with everything as he walked over to the medical bed. I have to give my congratulations to the both of you for the first child that ever was born between two Arankars. This usually should be a time of celebration, but the both of you know you've committed a great sin going against the organization's wishes. Nelliel started to fear for her child's life, knowing that the Lord was not a very forgiving man. Please, Lord Aisin, I beg for your forgiveness. Punish us for what we have done, but please spare our son. Grimjaw was completely enraged as he stood up in front of his lover and his newborn son. I won't allow you to touch either of them. If you have an issue, take it up with me, and if so, we will take this outside. If not, then please leave the room. Aisin was amused by both of their responses, but what really caught his eye was the child did not seem to be affected or afraid of what he was doing by the heavy gravity that was in their room. Both of you seem to understand the weight of what you have done. I will think about your punishment very hard, but for now I will allow you to celebrate and take heed, knowing that no harm will be coming to your son, but I will not promise the same fate for either of you. Aisin continued to glare at the child for a moment as he decided to leave the room, and as he turned the corner, everyone could quickly see that sinister grin on his face. As they knew that grim tidings were ahead, both of the parents took in the reality. As a couple of hours passed, Aisin actually summoned Grimjaw to his personal private quarters. Upon arrival, the door slid shut as a bunch of seals actually showed up behind him, keeping them locked inside as both men stared at each other intensely. Grimjaw decided that he was going to be the first person to break the silence between them. Listen, I know what you're thinking, and I did screw up, but you have to realize that my son could actually be a great asset to your army later on. And Nelliel can still fight. I don't know what the others have been telling you, but if you think about this, this should make her a lot stronger than she already was. Aisin just seemed to be entertained by these words of promise and begging. You truly seem to misunderstand the true intentions of me bringing you here. You see, I've been able to reach another universe thanks to our science and a thin layer in the Dangai. Grimjaw was a little bit confused, not understanding what this whole thing had to do with his family situation. Okay, but what does this other universe have to do with my family situation? Aisin gets a serious look on his face, but yet it looked like he was so composed, like you couldn't read him whatsoever. It has everything to do with your family. I plan to send the 3 of you there through the tear, that way you can get information on this new universe. We don't know if we'll be able to get you back. It might be a one-way ticket for all of you, but if we are able to make contact with you, we'll be able to gain research from this new world. I want the 3 of you to do recon and report back into me whatever it is that you have found. Grimjaw seemed to be skeptical, feeling like this was way too good to be true. And what's the catch? Knowing you, there has to be one, because I can tell by working with you for so long, you don't let people who go against your will get a free vacation. Aisin was still keeping that amused but unreasonable unreadable look on his face as he looked out into the darkness of Los Noches. There's no guarantee that you'll survive the jump. We can only set up the breach for you to jump through. There's a chance that all three of you could be destroyed just by going through it, but if you live, in a way, I'm giving you a chance to get away from all this, which I think that both of you want if I'm not uncertain. Grimjow had a look of pure shock and horror on his face. Do you honestly think that I'm going to allow you to risk my family's life on a hunch that we might make it through? Aisin chuckled as he looked Grimjow dead in the eyes. Oh, you're under the false pretense of thinking that you have a choice in the matter. Let me make things clear to you. The only reason I said that there would be no harm to your son is because I was planning to do this from the very beginning. But if you decide to go against this order, I'll execute all three of you right now. So it's up to you. Take a leap of faith and hope that there's a better life on the other side of that portal, or stay here and just die. Grimjow just fell down to his knees, knowing the decision he has to make as he held his head down in shame. How long do we have to prepare? Aisin was just enjoying his victim being broken spirit as he crumbled down right in front of his feet. You have until tomorrow morning. I will allow you to pack whatever it is you think is necessary. And I do trust that you know running away is pointless. Everybody will be watching every move that you make. Both of them just nodded in understanding as Grimjow was free to leave the room as he was walking back to his palace. The only thing that was going through his mind is how was he going to tell Neliel tomorrow that his entire family had to take a leap of faith into the unknown, risking their lives and more importantly their son's life as he finally arrived back at his palace. He headed right over to the nursery, noticing that Neliel was not by herself as he recognized the face of Hollybell as both women looked back at him with worried looks on their faces. Neliel was worried as she looked over at him with a completely pale look and dead eyes as she just put her son down in the crib and then rushed over to hold her husband. "No, tell me, how bad is it? You can tell me the truth, I can take it." Hollybell was concerned as she stayed in front of the crib, making sure that their child could not see the worried look of its two parents. "So be honest with us, is anyone going to be dying?" Grimjow was finally able to swallow the confidence to tell the both of them what was about to happen. "We are technically been sentenced to death, but there's going to be a leap of faith that our family has to go through tomorrow. There is a 50% chance that we'll survive, but we'll never be able to come back here, and there will be nothing that we can do to change that fact." Neliel just looked horrified about what she just heard. Though he never planned to show us any mercy, we're going to be made an example for the others to never fall out of line. Hollybell just felt bad watching her two closest friends suffer like this. "If the three of you have to make the jump, I'll be jumping alongside you." Grimjow just looked at her in surprise. "Don't be stupid. Just because the three of us are having our lives thrown away doesn't mean you have to do the same." Neliel then got up as she smacked Hollybell across the face like she was disappointed. "I don't ever want to hear you say something like that again. You're basically telling me that you're okay with killing yourself." Hollybell just held onto her cheek as she was surprised by that action. "Honestly, I don't think any of us are going to die. I don't sense the shadow of death over any of us, so I think we should just take the jump and be faithful. Do I get a say in any of this?" As three invaders come into the nursery room, revealing one of them to be an average height teen with green face paint going down his eyes, with a horn coming out of his head as he walks over to Hollybell as she looks concerned but actually has a light smile on her face. "I don't want you to try to talk me out of this, Ukiora. I've already decided my fate. It doesn't matter even if you tell Lord Aisin." Ukiora looked around the room as he went over to Grimjow and kicked him right in the face as he slammed into the back wall. "I hope that you're ready to take responsibility for all the fighters that you're about to throw away. Right now, I don't know where we end up after all this, but I will make sure that I drag you down to hell with me if this all backfires." Grimjow was angry as his back hit into the wall, but then was confused by the statement that Ukiora just told him. "Wait, you're not planning on doing what I think you are, right?" Ukiora had a blank face as he started to get a little bit of a grin, but it then went back to being blank real fast. "Wherever Hollybell goes, I will follow, so if she's going to take a leap of faith with the both of you, I guess I'll jump as well. And I'm not the only one who's going to be following us. Is that our cue to finally come in? You were going so long for that emotional stuff that I almost fell asleep out here." As everybody turned to see who said that, all they could actually see is a young girl with yellowish green hair as they were actually kicking an old man with brown hair right into the room. As the man actually hit his head on the door frame as the young girl actually jumped right on top of him and started pounding him right on the chest. Everyone kind of sees the tension in the room disappear as they started to laugh a little bit watching the usual development between Lillinet and Stark. Neliel actually started to laugh as she was getting calmed down from the entire situation as she watched the both of them. It's good to know that the both of them will always be good for a laugh. Stark just grabbed onto the back of Lillinet's head as he tossed her off of him as he sat up rubbing the back of his head. "I really wish that you would show me some more respect and not just attack me when I say something you don't like hearing." Lillinet just stood up onto her feet feeling embarrassed like she was being treated like a child. "Maybe if you weren't so lazy crazy all the time and make me have to come get you to do stuff, I would actually treat you with some respect. Neliel let out a deep sigh as she actually was in the middle of both of them, as she just flicked at both of them on the forehead trying to get their attention. As much as I love watching this little comedy routine, it's not the time for this. I'm guessing if you're here, that also means you're going to be going along with us to this other world. Remember that if you decide to do this, you'll become a true traitor and can never come back here, if there's going to be a way back from where we're going. Lilnet held onto her forehead. She was about to scream, but then realized the seriousness of their actual situation. All of you are like my family. The others are creepy or psychopaths. I'd rather take a leap to my death than stay here while you guys are gone. Stark got onto his feet as he started to brush himself off. The only reason I'm going is because I have to follow her. Plus, if I stay here and all of you leave, that's going to be a lot more work for me, and I don't want to deal with that. As everyone was just trying to get serious about their situation again, they look across the room at each other for their reasonings for going. As they hear giggling coming from the crib, as it catches all of their attention, as they see the young little child with light green hair and half of his white mask covering his face, while the other half is just showing off his regular skin. He was actually jumping up and down in his crib wearing his white and grayish onesie. Ukiura then spoke up because he was curious about something. So, have you given your son a name yet, or are you just going to keep that a mystery for now? Grimjaw walked over to the crib and picked up his son. His name is Izuku Jaggerjack. As we cut to the next morning, Grimjaw and his family had their stuff packed as they were walking to the main hall of Los Noches. As they see the gigantic portal, they look around the room as they could see their fellow espada looking down on them. As they stop 20 feet from the portal, they look up to see Aisin sitting down in his throne looking down on everybody from above. So, before I force you to go through the portal, is there anything you would like to say? Think of them as your famous last word. Neliel handed her son over to her husband as she stepped forward. I just have to say a few things, and that is, I want to let you know that you were a crude leader. We were also willing to do whatever it took so we can help you get your goal completed, but just because we go against your wishes just this once, we're now getting kicked out. I hope that all of your goals for the future go up in smoke. Aizen just grinned as he was amused by the words of a dying woman. You are being too harsh. I'm not doing this because I question your loyalty, but I do feel that your actions could cause betrayal down the line, so I must have the both of you dismissed. Truly, I am sorry, but I cannot allow your line of thinking to spread to the others. Like I said to your husband, I do wish the both of you the best once you step through. Grimjaw was just annoyed listening to Aizen talk like he was above everybody else. Don't give us that shit. We're just pawns in your hand, and since we're no longer useful in your eyes, we're trash. I don't feel bad for what we did, and I don't feel bad for where we're going. I'm just happy that I'll never have to see your face ever again. Aizen just stood up from his throne as he was disappointed. Well, I was hoping for some better words, but it doesn't matter. Your fate has been sealed, so now step through the portal. Portal started to glow, showing that it was finally ready as Neliel and Grimjaw held onto each other's hands. As they got right in front of the portal, their allies jumped from their seats and rushed towards them, as they accidentally slammed into each other, going through the portal and breaking it, as all of them felt like they were being sucked into a vacuum as everything seemed to go black for a second. As everything seemed to come back to light, they noticed that they were falling out of the sky towards a very gigantic city. Grimjaw noticed that his wife and son were actually completely out cold as he was able to make himself a platform in the air, and quickly grab onto the both of them as he held them in his arms. Well, it looked like it worked. We're in a completely different world now. Hollybell seemed to be standing in the air holding onto Ukiura, who was still passed out. Yes, and it seems besides a few of us being knocked out, everything should be okay, but we need to find some shelter for them. Stark just comes down in between the both of them, holding onto Lillinet on his back. Yeah, I agree with you. I think we should find a place for the unconscious so they can be safe. That way the three of us can actually go do recon and try to figure out about this crazy world. Hollybell motions for the boys to bring everybody down as they go on top of a building, and she then places Ukiura up against the wall. I think that we can just leave them here on top of this building for a few minutes, so we can figure out about our location and plan from there, because I feel like if we leave them alone for too long and they realize that we're not here, they might start freaking out. Grimjaw placed his wife up against the wall as he laid Izuku down in her lap. That's fine, it doesn't seem like this town is very dangerous. As soon as he was done saying that phrase, an explosion could be heard going off in the street as cars were being tossed through buildings. They soon looked over the side of the building to see a couple of weird humans destroying the streets around them, as they soon noticed a couple of grown men in spandex unconscious on the floor. Hollybell just shook her head like she didn't want to deal with the situation at all. You had to open your big mouth. As soon as you say something like that, everything went wrong. She looked over at them. She didn't see Grimjaw standing there anymore. Where the hell did he go now? Stark just pointed down at the street below as he was just watching the show. You weren't paying attention, so he decided to jump down as he was saying, I'm going to go have some fun and blow off some steam. Hollybell just looked over the side of the building, horrified. That idiot, we're supposed to be keeping a low profile here while we still figure out our situation. As we cut down to the street below, we see that the villains are still destroying the place as the heroes seem to unable to handle the situation that they are at as hope has been lost. As they see a man with blue hair with a white piece of bone on his face jump down from on top of a skyscraper, landing right in the middle of the villain group. Who the hell is this fool? Another wannabe hero? Grimjow just seemed to chuckle a little bit at the idea of somebody thinking he's a hero. Who I am is not important, but thanks to you idiots, I'm going to be able to blow off some steam. So I'll do you the kindness and ask who the hell you are. As a big man covered in ice particles seemed to be the leader of this group actually stepped forward towards Grimjow. They call me Blizzard because when I come through town I leave everything cold and desolated. Grimjow started to let out his spiritual pressures as all the villains around him started to drop to their knees like they were suffocating. If you're the worst thing that I come across in this world, I will already rule it by the end of the week because you are just weaklings. As all the villains start to actually pass out from being underneath the intense gravity as the sound of cheerful laughing could be heard in the air. As all the citizens look up to the sky to see a man coming down, making a small crater as a dust cloud seemed to kick up into the air. With another mighty chuckle, we could hear a man coming out of the crater as it reveals himself to be All Might. Never fear, citizens, because I am here. He looked around, noticing that all the villains are actually knocked out, making him feel a little bit sheepish for being late as he looked over, noticing Grimjow. Hey, you there, is this your handiwork? Grimjow looked over at the muscular man a little bit uneasy because of that gigantic smile on his face being creepy. Yeah, I took out all of these weaklings for causing so much destruction around the area that my family's in. He then pulled out his sword from his hip as he swung it real quick, causing a massive gust as he was able to take out all the flames and then resheath his sword. So, what's the protocol here? Do we kill them? Am I supposed to hand them over to you? Like, what's the story? All Might was actually thrown back by that question as he was wondering if this guy was actually going to kill them. Excuse me, sir, but it doesn't seem you're from around these parts, so allow me to explain the laws to you. We do not kill villains, we capture them. If you're a pro hero, you should know this. Grimjow felt like a child reading a comic book back when he was young listening to All Might talk. I don't know what a pro hero is, but I do understand what you're telling me. Do you know of a place where I can find some shelter? I'm not from around here and I'm trying to find a place that's safe for the people that I'm helping. All Might walked up to Grimjow as he placed a hand on his shoulder. So you're not a hero, but you've taken out these villains and tried to find shelter for some people. Are they your family or just random civilians? I can possibly help you if you can give me more detail about your situation. Grimjow thought about what he should do as he looked around, actually noticing the people respecting the man right in front of him as he got an idea. I'm willing to explain my situation if you can give 6 people shelter. All Might just had a big smile on his face as he kept his signature pose. I'm willing to help you out. It seems that you have an interesting story, so as long as you tell me everything that I want to know, I have no problem giving you help. Grimjow looked up as he noticed that his friends were looking over the edge of the building as he motioned for them to come down. As they both just looked over at him, realizing that their new lives were going to be very, very weird from what they're used to. As they picked up the unconscious people and jumped over the side of the building, landing perfectly on the ground, with no injuries, as All Might was actually very shocked looking at them as he had to compose himself. Alright everyone, just follow me and I'll get you to a nice place that you can rest your heads. But that's where I'm going to end it off this time, guys. But look forward to my next video because it's going to be what if Deku was the Monkey King. And if you don't know why that is, make sure to go check out my last live stream. But with all that said, I'm out. Bye.